Hello and welcome to The Big Fight, and it has been a news-packed week. First, the Obama visit, Narendra Modi striding high on the global stage, and all sorts of questions as to what this means for geopolitics, for India, for China, the entire region, questions like that. And then, of course, later on in the week, politics started to really come in, and especially that shock decision by Jayanthi Natarajan to resign from the Congress party and actually come out in fairly open revolt against the Gandhis. What does that mean for politics? So we're going to take a look at all these big events that have happened in the week in what we hope is going to be a power-packed episode of The Big Fight as well. And we have a great range of panelists who will take us through all of these issues in some detail. JVL Narasimha Rao, national spokesperson of the BJP, whom we may try and throw in a question or two about Delhi also, where who knows, the problems that the BJP is facing there.
Hello.
Randeep Singh Surjewala, spokesperson of the Congress party. Dr. Brahma Chelani, Professor of Strategic Studies, Center for Policy Research, whom we promised to spare some of the inner political details, and of course, Brahma, feel free to dive in on whichever ones you want to comment on. Siddharth Varadarajan, senior fellow at the Shiv Nadar University, and of course, a really senior journalist as well. Gardner Harris, South Asia correspondent to the New York Times. Ashok Malik, senior journalist and columnist, and Professor Shiv Vishwanathan, sociologist. And we're also going to be joined in just a couple of minutes by M.K. Bhadrakumar, former diplomat and who was closely looking at the nuclear deal indeed. Okay, why don't we start off with some of the most recent events, which is of course Jayanthi Natarajan and what that means for the politics of the country. Is the Congress party starting to see its first organized revolt? Somebody willing to come out and say the things that many in the Congress party were actually saying quietly behind closed doors. The Gandhis, Rahul Gandhi, what specifically is he doing? Too much interference. Nobody seemed to know what they were doing in UPA too.
Well, why would you say that? Presumably,
that because it's the
there are three basic things that she said. She said Rahul Gandhi is also Congress President's office, sent her representations of various NGOs on the rights of forest dwellers, on the rights of various tribal bodies, and said that they need to be protected. Environment doesn't have to be degraded at the cost of certain big ticket projects. She also said there was never an intervention on behalf of any corporate lobby except for non-degradation of environment, which was the stated Congress policy. She has a difference of opinion with the party. She's left it very well. That's one part. But to say that
that's one way of interpreting what she said. That's not actually what she said. And what she was meaning to say was something slightly different. She said, I was instructed essentially by Sonia Gandhi and by Rahul Gandhi to take certain steps as a minister of the government, and at the end of the day, when I followed those instructions, I was then made the scapegoat for it and was fired without even being given a chance to explain myself. And when I asked for a right to explain myself, I wasn't given that chance or a meeting till now. That's what she actually said. It wasn't about.
Let's be fair. Let's see the two things very clearly. What is the allegation? The allegation is that environment must be protected at all cost. Environment Protection Act must be adhered to.
No, that's
tribal rights must be adhered to. That's the allegation.
No, hang on. It's going to do with the Environment Ministry. Her allegation is that the Congress party has been functioning as a fiefdom of the Gandhis, who were overruling the government at that point, but not taking responsibility for their own decisions. That's the allegation.
No, I disagree, Vikram. I think any worker of the party or any Indian citizen could write to the minister or a group of NGO and say, here, this is a lobby of corporates who are degrading environment.
Yes.
That is what Mr. Rahul Gandhi's office refers to.
Yes, but an individual couldn't force the government to take certain action, which is what she's saying. The Gandhi.
But she also said, just one line before my friend comes in, she also said, and I very vividly heard, that she did everything in accordance with law and something that was upheld right up to the Supreme Court. Are we questioning that? She can have a difference of opinion with the party. She's left it. That's
everyone else to dive in on this.
Vikram, the whole corporate world was abuzz with news when the UPA 2 was in power, when they were in office, when Ms. Jayanthi Natarajan was heading the ministry, that nothing gets done in the environment ministry unless money is paid. I think this was the general common knowledge that was available. And today what she has said today,
I was only acting on instructions.
Yes, she is saying that very clearly today. Now only we have the minister herself putting these facts in public domain. She is clearly saying I have been actually, I have been named as a corrupt minister. It's not me. Whatever I did was on the specific instructions of Rahul Gandhi.
She wasn't specifically accusing anybody else of corruption. She was just saying that I was being told to act in a certain
obviously
manner.
The reference is to do things which ought not to have been done.
BJP is in power for 9 months. If Mr. Narasimha Rao says she was a corrupt minister, why not send her to jail?
No, I think
first you accused her.
No.
First you accused her, for 9 months you take no action, still you want to follow shoot and
scoot. What's the real point that comes out of this?
I think there's two important issues, right, that her letter raises. One, I think we need to focus on the timeline involved, and second, the actual contents. Now, the timeline is interesting. During the election campaign, you had Narendra Modi as the BJP's prime ministerial candidate, himself referring not once but several times to this so-called Jayanthi tax that he said companies had to pay in order to get their files cleared from the Environment Ministry. It's a very specific allegation against a specific individual, which the Congress rebutted at the time, she herself rebutted. We don't know if the BJP or Prime Minister Modi then proceeded to investigate these things. What we do know is that at the end of October, the Economic Times and a couple of other papers began to run stories that Jayanthi Natarajan was going to be questioned by the CBI, which was looking into some of those cases. The letter that she writes to Sonia Gandhi, despite clearly nursing grievances for at least 8 or 9 months, is dated roughly 3 or 4 days after those stories begin to appear. So I would say
understandable, because that's when she'd feel the most aggrieved. She'd be most concerned.
The thing is that I wonder if there's a link between the conscience that strikes her and the idea that she might be investigated. That's first point. Second issue is the kind of decisions that she took. I think if money changed hands, or if she took decisions in violation of rules, those decisions should be investigated, she should be probed, and if it turns out that extraneous factors like the intervention of the Gandhis were involved in decisions that were taken in violation of the rules, the full force of law should apply to everybody concerned. And I think that's where we need to see the government declaring its hand on this.
Through the UPA years, the Environment Ministry was a very controversial ministry. Under Mr. Raja initially, and then in the second UPA government under Jairam Ramesh and under Jayanthi Natarajan. There were rumors, unproven rumors which need to be investigated, as Mr. Narasimha Rao suggested, that people asked for bribes to clear files. There was also a perception, a political perception, that the ministry played favorites in terms of states and individual businessmen seen as close to certain politicians in terms of giving clearances or not giving clearances.
But can I just ask you?
Just hear me out, please. 1 minute. What Jayanthi is now saying, she's not admitting to any corruption, but she's saying yes, decisions were influenced for extraneous reasons, for reasons other than professional action, by not just me, but by the Gandhi family. While she is not absolving herself, she is also answerable, very much answerable. She's also pointing the needle of suspicion, and it's only suspicion, towards the Gandhi family. If nothing else, this is deeply embarrassing for the Congress and for the Gandhi family, and they would be required to answer some questions.
Okay.
At the very minimum.
Gardner.
Can the Congress Party, we're 9 months into this new government, it was a huge blow to the Congress Party and to the Gandhi family specifically. It doesn't look like they're recovering. In fact, things keep getting worse and worse and worse. And one has to wonder whether the Gandhi family in particular and the Congress Party in general are really going to be able to get out of this funk. We've seen no sign of it, either in the states, frankly, or in the central government. And so the question is this the end of the dynasty?
And that, I think, is a bigger question that I want to come to, because it's very interesting that, as you said, the slide and the side of the Gandhi family specifically, and maybe even the Congress Party, is coming at a time when Narendra Modi took some big strides to emerge further onto the world stage. So not
only that, but this next month is crucial for Modi, right? He's finally going to have to come out and say, is he going to do major reforms? His budget is due in the next month. His honeymoon is over. He has to go one way or the other. Either he's going to do some major reforms and anger a lot of constituencies, or he's not going to do major reforms, and that will disappoint a huge number of his followers. This is a crucial month, and he has no effective opposition during this crucial month, because the Gandhis are only deteriorating even farther.
So can I just ask you, Shiv, now, if you're looking at this, is this in a sense, this is the first time that you've had revolts in the Congress party, but here's Jayanthi coming out, and she was seen as somebody particularly close to the family once upon a time, but she's almost squarely and directly attacking the Gandhi family and Rahul Gandhi specifically. Do you see this as the first of a trend? Do you think this is now going to start happening, that as the Congress party is looking more and more fragmented, not very sure what they're doing? I mean, look at the Delhi election, no one's even talking about what the Congress party is going to do. Nobody seems to be bothering too much about what the Congress is doing. Do you see this as the start of a new trend?
See, I think when you isolate gossip and silos, you read things differently. I think the first thing and the sad thing I feel about is not Jayanthi's act of law, it's the sense of what does this woman feel as an act of conscience? Because if it's a revolt, it's badly scripted, it sounds like a B-grade movie and like an afterthought. Because it's not effective. It's only effective because anything you throw at the Congress today looks effective, because the party is in a state of despondence. I think there's a bigger question here. If you link up all these issues, at one level you see the BJP tightening on finance, defense, foreign policy. But what worries me is the BJP's attitude to environment, education, and these issues. Yeah. Using the Congress as a pretext, I think, makes me worry whether environment is an issue at all for the BJP.
Okay, I'm going to turn to what the BJP feels on environment. Yeah.
On that. Let me take that further. She makes a statement. Within minutes, Finance Minister makes a statement and says the policy of protection of tribal rights and forest rights was a sadist economy. And then the Environment Minister comes forward out of the blue and says whatever proposals were rejected, whatever approvals were rejected on environmental grounds, NDA will review all. Where is the occasion? Are they acting on behalf of a certain corporate lobby whose big ticket environment projects were rejected on account of environmental degradation? That's a valid question. And is this letter really a prelude or a ploy to hide the review of that process of environmental degradation by BJP?
I think what the BJP is objecting to is the selective manner and the partisan manner in which these environmental clearances have been given. What we are going to examine is what is the nature of deviations that have been made from the stated policy, and what were the deviations from the established procedures of law, and why were these done. I think I think the Congress party is trying to divert the issue onto environment. This is not about environment. What we are discussing is about corruption, blatant favoritism, partisanship, and targeting certain business houses.
I'm actually wondering whether we shouldn't be debating something a bit bigger than all of those. Is this the first time that we are seeing in the Congress party, Jayanthi Natarajan may be the first, other people who feel that the Congress is not viable, especially under the leadership of the Gandhis, and therefore we should start challenging.
No, if I can just add a line there.
Is that something which you think could start now?
I think that's a good question, and let's connect the dots. Let's connect what Jayanthi says in her letter and the way she presented these things in her press conference. Connect this to what Janardhan Dwivedi said in his interview to Reader. Yeah. Connect this to Krishna Tirath leaving the Congress. Connect this to the fracturing of the Tamil Nadu Congress under G.K. Vasan. Clearly, there is or what's happening in the Punjab Congress. There is clearly an enormous amount of dissatisfaction with the way the Gandhis are running the Congress party, and the Congress party is unable to introspect in the manner that they ought to have done after that terrible debacle from their point of view in May 2014.
The response is almost a blanket coming together behind the Gandhis.
They're sort of wishing away. They're sort of wishing away their problems and exerting discipline. For example, in the Tamil Nadu Congress, exerting discipline in such a foolish manner that the party split. When there was a suggestion that we should promote regional leaders.
They've been disciplining a whole lot of people.
Well, exactly. So I think the question of the Gandhis' dominance is one that cannot be evaded. But I do feel that in terms of just to come back to the environment issue, it's interesting that Jayanthi Natarajan said that 3 of those projects that she mentioned in her letter finally got the imprimatur of the Supreme Court. So there is a sense in which we did not question the rights or wrongs of those clearances. But I think the other ones that she mentioned, I don't know what the status of those finally were.
Yeah, but let me just stay on this larger question of what this means for the Congress party, and then I want to just come to the other issue. He said that what is happening in the BJP, and is there a sort of a flip-flop in different ways in which both those seem to be going. Let me just ask you the broader question of what this means for the Congress party and the leadership of the Gandhis. Is this, you think, Is there a serious amount of questioning that is going to start within the Congress?
People who ask questions will end up leaving the Congress. They won't be questioning within the Congress as such. The fact that Rahul Gandhi is not quite delivering votes, and in fact has been a spectacular failure in terms of mobilizing votes, is becoming apparent to everyone in the party and elsewhere. Second, if you notice in the past few months, there have been a series of occasions when the parties had to rally around not a political cause, but to defend the Gandhi family on the National Herald case, to defend Robert Vadra in terms of the accusations against him in Haryana and Rajasthan, to now defend the Gandhi family against Jayanthi Natarajan. So none of these is really an issue on which you're attacking the BJP or going forward. You are defending the Gandhi family or relatives of the Gandhi family who are not even in politics, formally in politics. And the party is losing its way, as Gardner suggested some time ago, in doing all of this and giving the BJP an empty space in Parliament, where the opposition is being led by smaller parties like the Trinamool Congress.
Gardner, how much should we? I mean, how much in the broader future of the Congress Party should we read into whatever's been happening?
Oh, I mean, Rahul is not a politician. He is not good at this job. We have been seeing, trying to watch him grow for the last 11, 12 years in the public space. Oh, please, Rahul, grow into your role. You can do this. And he doesn't. He doesn't do anything. He's terrible. He's not a politician. Let's all say it together. Rahul is not a politician. I happen to like politicians. It's kind of a hard job. You got to know people's names. You got to know the subjects. You kind of got to get out there and rouse the troops. He can't do any of this. And so the Congress Party is going to die if they continue to promote Rahul as the man who's going to lead it, because he's going to lead it to its death.
Okay. I really think that particular speech of yours is going to go viral on YouTube.
I would disagree with that.
Essentially, he's called him the Shikhar Dhawan of politics.
Okay, with that round of applause, Andy, would you like to respond to that rather impassioned speech from Gardner?
Well, impassioned and spirited.
I've heard he loves dogs and that he's a really nice guy. I'm not
Well, Vikram, impassioned and spirited Gardner is, but he loses fact from unreality. Right from Churchill's times, people have been writing of Congress as a dead party. So it's not.
He's actually writing of Rahul right now.
Yes.
And surely you're not going to say he's like Churchill.
And if you see in 77, I'm not even going to go into the past history. In 77, we were written off. We came back. All senior journalists and all reporters of the New York Times wrote us off, and we came back in 91. We were again written off post 96. We came back.
But that's, I'll tell you what
so
the
we have
problem
an
is.
inherent
Can I tell you what the difference
of ideology
there was
and
no
cadre
alternative
both.
then. There was no. Today you have an alternative.
And B, the Congress Party seemed to have a plan. Even in 77, after that, Mrs. Gandhi came back in 1980, there was a leader. Congress Party to come back, it has to have a plan, an alternative, a strategy. It has to have something, which right now you don't
Let
seem
me
to be
remind
having.
you, same things were said about Mrs. Gandhi, that Mrs. Gandhi will run away in 77 and go to Italy. Same thing. Same correspondent, same friends said the same things.
Okay.
And
I
Congress,
agree with that, Vikram,
Congress
you can't,
had the
miracle
resilience,
will not
had the
happen
capacity.
Again. It's like
Okay,
Steve
but-
Jobs. He brought Apple back from the dead. That's an amazing thing. That doesn't happen but once every 100 years. Rahul is not his mother, and he is not going
by
to
the way,
sort of get this done.
So now let me introduce the other aspect of it, and let me throw it to all of you. At the same time, we are seeing Rahul being pitched against somebody who seems to be growing into his job more and more, becoming more and more dominant at what he is doing, from having a certain hold within the country. We saw this week in the sort of, now you can question as to whether there was too much hype around it. You could question about some of the the suits that were being worn and the language around it, but you did see Modi rising further and further on the global stage. So to that extent, the need to have the Congress to get its act together to take him on is even more strong. Brahma, why don't I get you in on this? From the point of view of what we saw in this entire interaction between Modi and Obama, to what extent do you really see Modi becoming more and more of a dominant figure on the world stage to add to whatever he's been doing in India? Or do you think there was a lot of, there are some who've questioned as to what actually was achieved in these 2-3 days? There was a lot of hype and not much else, is what the critics would say.
Well, this has been a great week for Modi, personally, other than the firing of the foreign secretary. And his handling of the Obama visit was really good, because the visit was actually a personal success for Mr. Modi. He was confident, self-assured, and he dealt with Mr. Obama as an equal. And the trip, in fact, is going to provide fresh impulse to the bilateral relationship. So for Mr. Modi, this was a great week. But looking ahead, I think he faces some very important challenges. He's been in office for 8 months. The honeymoon period is now beginning to end. He faces major domestic policy issues. He's been a great success on the foreign policy front. In fact, he's planning to...
So you would call it a successful visit? Was enough actually done? Because somebody say, what came off it was all, okay, a lot of atmospherics, but nothing was actually done. You think there was specific actions that were taken?
The relationship was rich in pageantry and symbolism. There's no doubt about that. But it did yield some smaller substantive advances. And I think the most important thing was the personal chemistry between the two leaders. The personal warmth between Obama and Modi, their friendship is going to provide a fillip to the relationship, because after all, inter-country relations are shaped not just by cold calculations of national interest, but also by equations between leaders. So I think that aspect has to be also kept in mind.
Okay, Mr. Bhadra Kumar, let me drag you in before I come to the rest of the panel. Do you also think that the Obama visit was significant enough for Mr. Modi?
Yes, of course. I think for our Prime Minister, in front of the domestic audience, this sort of a pageantry, I think it was of great use at this point in time. Delhi is having an election and all that taken into account. You see, we have to see the visit in perspective. There was an earnest. I think the most important thing is this is an earnest effort to salvage the relationship and put it on a forward-looking trajectory. But having said that, the problem still remains. You know, the quality of the relationship ultimately will depend on how substance can be put into it. This is where the problem was there last 2-3 years for various reasons. Now, therefore, follow-up is the most important thing. This has to be sustained, and that is in the womb of time. And you know, we have heard all this rhetoric in the past. Was Obama's visit any less colorful, the last visit? No, it wasn't. This atmospherics, and I think we are exaggerating the importance of this so-called personal chemistry. Personal chemistry was very good between George Bush and Vladimir Putin. You know, Bush's famous sentence that I looked into his eyes and I saw his soul there. What happened thereafter?
Okay, so personal chemistry, not enough substance. Ashok?
I think there were two big advances, aside from the bells and whistles, with this visit. One, the loose ends of the nuclear deal, which had been begun, of course, by Mr. Manmohan Singh and the Congress government, were tied up. And that has more or less been settled. Of course, we have to actually see corporations doing deals now. Second, the vision statement on Asia Pacific and the Indian Ocean region is potentially one of the most important foreign policy documents signed by an Indian Prime Minister. Why do I say potentially? And that's where I link it to Mr. Modi's honeymoon and the Congress's prospects of defeating him. It's that whole visit, Obama's visit, and that vision statement is predicated on India achieving its economic goals, and Mr. Modi not just reviving the Indian economy to 6.5% or 6.3%, but to something much bigger on a much more sustained basis. And that is why the budget, and not just the budget of February 28th, but also the budget session, where a number of key legislations have to be passed, is a very important moment for Mr. Modi. It could define the rest of his term.